Hello. Hello, everybody. Well, nobody's gonna watch this, and anyways, I haven't read The Red Dragon in like 2 days. I haven't really started. Last time I was reading it, I left off at chapter 11, which I'm beginning in the last episode. They were just, they just now know how he was feeling, but it's just filler content most of the time with The Red Dragon. It really wasn't how I expected. It's like how I expected with murderers, It usually is like they understand how they did it, but they don't know the person themselves, so they go based on many theories. And then, yeah. And, after I'm finished reading The Red Dragon, I don't think I'm gonna be reading this. Because I wanted to read it, because after I finished Hannibal. But some of it is kind of boring, to say the least, but at the same time it's interesting. I don't know what kind of book I want to read next. And if somehow someone watching this understands like what book I should read next, please go ahead and say something. Well, anyways, but it doesn't really matter. But yeah. Hold on. What the Bruh. Yep. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but hold on. Alright, so... Oh, hello. Well, whoever's watching this, just know I'm reading a chapter of The Red Dragon. Hold on, is my thing audio loud enough? But, hello. But does it really have to... I guess it does, but hold on. Uh-oh. The Red Dragon... Alright, let me just start off reading, because why not? I'm a bad reader. Don't blame it on me, alright? Eileen was reading the National Tatler article called Fifth in Your Bread. The Dollaride came into the cafeteria. She had eaten only the filling in her tuna salad sandwich. Behind the red goggles, Dollaride eyes zigged down the front page of the Tatler. Cover lines and additions to the filth in your bread included Elvis at Secret Love Retreat, exclusive pics, stunning breakthrough for cancer victims in the big banner line, Hannibal the Cannibal, helps lawmen, cops and consult friends in Tooth Fairy murders. He stood at the window, absently stirring his coffee until he heard Eileen get up. She dumped her tray in the trash container and was about to throw in the Tatler when Dollaride touched her shoulder. May I have that paper, Eileen? Sure, Mr. D. I just get it from the horoscopes. Dollaride read it in his office with the door closed. Freddie Lowndes had 2 bylines in the same double-page center spread. The main story had a breathless reconstruction of the Jacobys and Leeds murders. Since the police had not divulged many of the specifics, Lowndes consulted his imagination for the lurid details. Dollaride found them banal. The sidebar was more interesting. Insane fiend consulted mass murders by cop he tried to kill, by Freddie Lowndes. Baltimore, MD. Federal manhunters stymied in their search of the Tooth Fairy, psychopathic slayer of the entire families in Birmingham and Atlanta, have turned to the most savage killer in captivity for help. Dr. Hannibal Lecter, whose unspeakable particles were reported in these pages 3 years ago, Once consulted this week in this maximum security asylum cell by ace investigator William Will Graham. Graham suffered a near fatal slashing at Lecter's hands when he unmasked the mass murder. When he was brought back from early retirement to spearhead the hunt for the Tooth Fairy. What went on this bizarre meeting of the two mortal enemies? What was Graham after? It takes one to catch one, a high federal official told this reporter. He was referring to Lecter, known as the Hannibal the Cannibal, who was both a psychiatrist and a mass murderer. Or was he referring to Graham? The Tattler has learned that Graham, former instructor in forensics at the FBI Academy in Quantico, VA, was once confined to a mental institution for a period of 4 weeks. Federal officials refused to say why they placed a man with a history of mental instability at the forefront of a desperate manhunt. The nature of Graham's mental problem was not revealed, but one former psychiatric worker called it a deep depression. Carmen Evans, a paraprofessional formerly employed at Bethesda Naval Hospital, said Graham was admitted into the psychiatric wing soon after he killed Garrett Jacob Hobbs, the Minnesota strike. Graham shot Hobbs to death in 1975, ending Hobbs' 8-month reign of terror in Minneapolis. Evans said Graham was withdrawn and refused to eat or speak during the first weeks of his stay. Graham has never been an FBI agent. Veteran observers attribute this to the Bureau's strict screening procedures. Designed to detect instability, federal sources would reveal only that Graham originally worked in the FBI crime laboratory and was assigned teaching duties at the FBI Academy after outstanding work both in the laboratory and in the field, where he had served as special investigator. The Tattler learned that before this federal service, Graham was in the homicide division of the New Orleans Police Department, a post he left to attend graduate school in forensics at George Washington University. One New Orleans officer who served with Graham's commented, "Well, you can't call him retired, but the feds like to know where he's around. It's like having a king snake under the house. They may not see him much, but it's nice to know he's there to eat the moccasins. Dr. Lecter is confined for the rest of his life. If he is ever declared sane, he will never have to stand trial on 9 counts of first-degree murder. He will have to stand trial on 9 counts of first-degree murder." Lecter's attorney says the mass murderer spent his time writing useful articles for the scientific journal and has ongoing dialogue by mail with some of the most respected figures in psychiatry. Dollarite stopped reading and looked at the pictures. There was 2 of them, one at the sidebar, one above Lecter, pinned against the side of a state trooper car. The other was the pictures of Will Graham taken by Freddie Lowndes outside the Baltimore State Hospital. A small photogram of Lowndes ran beside each of the bylines. Dollarite looked at the pictures for one last time. He ran the tip of his forefinger over them slowly, back and forth, his touch exquisitely sensitive to the rough newsprint. Ink left a smudge on his fingertip. He wet the smudge with a tongue and wiped it off on the Kleenex. When he cut off the sidebar and put it in his pocket. On his way home from the plant, Dollarite bought toilet paper and quick dissolving kind, used in boats and campers and nasal inhalers. He felt good, despite his hay fever. Like many people who have undergone extensive rhinoplasty, Dollarite had no hair in his nose, and hay fever plagued him. So did upper respiratory infections. When a stalled truck held him up for 10 minutes on the Missouri River Bridge to St. Charles, he sat patiently. His black van was carpeted, cool and quiet, and the water music played at the stereo. He ripped his fingers on the steering wheel in the time with the music and dabbed at his nose. 2 women at a convertible were in the lane beside him. They wore shorts and blouse tied across the midriff. Dollaride looked down into the convertible from his van. Wait, hold on. Who is this? Anyways, I'm gonna continue reading. He rippled fingers on the steering wheel one time. Okay, hold on. What was I in? Missouri River Bridge, St. Charles. He said apparently his bag was incorporated, going quiet, and old music played on the stereo. He rippled his fingers on the screening wheel in time with the music and dabbed at his nose. Two women in a convertible were in a lane beside him. They wore shorts and blouse tied across the midriff. Dollaride looked down on the convertible from his van. They seemed tired and bored, squinting into the lowering sun. The woman on the passenger side had her hand against the seat back and her feet on the dash. Her slumped posture made two creases across the bare stomachs. Dollaride could see a suck mark on the side of her thigh. She caught him looking, sat up and crossed her legs. He saw worried distaste in her face. She said something to the woman at the wheel. Both looked straight ahead. He knew they were talking about him. He was so glad it did not make him angry. Few things made him angry, and he found the window with his other hand. He hawked and spit blob of green, plunged into the lap of the woman beside him, hitting her just beside the navel. Her curses sounded high and thin over the handle as he drove away. Dollaride Great Ledger was at least hundreds of years old, bound in the black leather with brass corners. It was so heavy a sturdy machine table supported it, and its locked closet at the top of the stairs. From the moment he saw it at a bankruptcy sale from an old St. Louis printing company, Dollaride knew it should be his. Now bathed in his kimono, he unlocked the closet and rolled it out. When the book was centered beneath the painting of the Great Red Dragon, he settled himself in the chair and opened it. The smell of foxed paper rose to his face. Across the first page in large letters he had illuminated himself were the words of revelation, and there came the Great Red Dragon also. The first item in the book was the only one not nearly mounted. Loose between the pages was a yellowed photograph of Dollaride as a small child and with his grandmother on the steps of the big house. He is holding to grandmother's skirt. Her arms are folded and her back is straight. Dollaride turned past it. He ignored it as though it had been left there by mistake. There were many clippings in the ledger. The earliest one about the disappearances of an elderly woman in St. Louis and Toledo. Pages between the clippings were covered in Dollaride's writings, blank ink, and fine copperplate script of not unlike William Blake's own handwriting. Fastened in the margins, ragged bits of sculpt trailed their tails of hairs like comets pressed in God's scrapbook. The Jacoby clippings from Birmingham were there, along with the film cartridges and slides set in pockets and glued to the pages. So were stories of the leadsies, with films beside them. The term Tooth Fairy had not appeared in the press until Atlanta. The name was marked out in all the lead stories. Now, Dollaride did the same with the Tatler, clipping obliterating Tooth Fairy with angry slashes of the red marker pen. He turned a new blank page in his ledger and trimmed the Tatler clip-in to fit. Should Graham picture go in? The words criminally insane carved into the stone above Graham's offended. Hold on, what? Criminally insane carved in the stone above Graham's offended Dollaride. He hated the sight of any place of confinement. Graham's face was close to him. He set it aside for the time being. But Lecter. This was not a good picture of the doctor. Dollaride had a better one, which he fetched from a box in his closet. It was published upon Lecter's committal and showed the fine eyes. Still, it was not satisfactory in Dollaride's mind. Lecter's likeness should be a dark portrait of a Renaissance prince. For Lecter alone, among all men, might have sensitivity and experience to understand the glory, the majesty of Dollaride's becoming. Dollaride felt that Lecter knew the unreality of people who died to help you in these things. understood that they are not flesh, but light and air and cold and quick sound quickly ended when you change them, like balloons of color bursting. That they are more important from the changing, more important than the lives they scramble after, pleading. Dollaride bore screams as Scriptor bears dust from the beaten stone. Lecter was capable of understanding that blood and breath were only elements undergoing change to fuel his radiance, just as the sword of light is burning. He would like to meet Lecter, talk, and share with him. He joys with him, and the shared vision. He recognized by him as John the Baptist recognized the one came after. Sit on him as the dragon sat on the 666 and Blakett Revelations series, and filled his death as dying. He meddled with the strength of the dragon. What? He recognized him, John Baptist. Well, alright. Dollaride pulled on a new pair of rubber gloves and went to his desk. He unrolled and discarded the outer layer of the toilet paper he had bought. Then he unrolled a strip of 7 sheets and tore it off. Printing carefully on the tissue with his left hand, he wrote a letter to Lecter. Speech is never a reliable indicator to how a person writes. You never know. Dollaride's speech was bent and pruned by disabilities, real and unimagined. And the difference between his speech and his writing was startling. Still, he found he could not say the most important things he felt. He wanted to hear from Lecter. He needed a professional response before he could tell Dr. Lecter. The important things. How could he manage that? He rummaged through his box of Lecter's clippings, read them all again. Finally, a simple way occurred to him, and he wrote again. This letter seemed too diffident, and shy when he read it over. He had signed it, Avid Fan. He brooded over the signature for several minutes, Avid Fan, indeed. His chin rose an imperious fraction. He put his gloved thumb into his mouth, removed his dentures, and placed them inside on the blotter. The upper plate was unusual. The teeth were normal, straight, and white, but the pink acrylic upper part was tortuous shape, cast to fit the twists and fissures of his gums. Attached to the plate was a soft plastic prosthesis with a obturator on top of which helped him close his soft palate and speech. He took a small case from his desk. It held another set of teeth. The upper casting was the same. There was no prosthesis. The crooked teeth had dark stains between them and gave off a faint stench. They were identical to grandmother's teeth in the beside glass downstairs. Dollaride's nostrils flared at the odor. He opened his sunken smile and put them in place and wet them with his tongue. He folded the letter across the signature and bit down hard on it. When he opened the letter again, the signature was enclosed in his oval bite marks. His notary seal and imprimatur flecked with old blood. Well, I'm done with that chapter 11. Well, I'm going to be reading chapter 12 in my own free time because I really hate speaking vocally. Because sometimes it doesn't register, but it also hurts for some reason my throat. I don't know why. Well, it was a nice, quick, simple stream. Good night, or good evening, or good morning to anyone who's watching this. Just know, time will tell.